Love this podcast? Support this show through the Acast supporter feature. It's up to you how much you give, and there's no regular commitment. Just click the link in the show description to support now.
Strictly for the culture. Brothers and sisters, you have seen the t-shirts, the hats, the hoodies, the mugs in the hands of some of your favorite pro wrestling stars, podcasters, and influencers out there. And now it's time. Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca and you too can be part of the movement. Bigger than sweatshirts and commercial success, Strictly for the Culture aims to build with like-minded people and elevate their position in the world through knowledge, self-love, and a desire to unite. So what are you waiting on? Visit strictlyfortheculture.ca. Do it for the love. Do it for the knowledge. Most importantly, folks, do it strictly for the culture.
You're locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke loves wrestling.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Brothers and sisters, I know that you keep asking about it. What's going on with our friends over at Generation Championship Wrestling? It's like you listeners have a love-hate relationship with them. There's so much drama. There's always something going on. And from what I understand, somehow, some way, Jeremy Gomez is back. He's back in Generation Championship Wrestling. I don't know. Just crazy stuff. Anyway, they have an event coming up called Live Forever. It's happening this Saturday, actually. So, boy, this is right upon us here, which is pretty cool. So I figured, hey, why not? Why not give you the update that you've been asking for? This is Duke Loves Wrestling. I always care about what the fans want to hear. So this Saturday, 13th of April, GCW Live Forever. And we have somebody who is going to run down the card for us, let us know what we can expect. So without further ado, he is the Macho Boy. Welcome to the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast, bro.
Thank you very much, Duke. Thanks for having me. What's up, guys?
Listen, I got to tell you, man, the GCW has just been a whirlwind all year with everything going on, but yet you folks are forging forward. So tell me about this Live Forever card. What's the story behind this here?
So this Live Forever show, man, named after a very, very great guy. Actually, the guy who the Generation Championship Wrestling Defender of Humanity Championship is named after, Rex Bacchus. This show we do in his honor every year because his very last professional wrestling show before he passed away from cancer was Generation Championship Wrestling's first ever Live Forever show. So this is a very special show for us, you know, being able to just honor Rex and thank him for everything and the road that he paved, not just for Florida wrestling, but for Generation Championship Wrestling in general. I mean, a very special guy. We admire him in the locker room, always trying to do our best for him.
Well, that's awesome. I love to hear that. And certainly Rex Bacchus, you know, hearts are with you, brother. We know that you are watching down upon Generation Championship Wrestling and all the fans there up in that great big ring in the sky. Talk to me about the main event here, because we know that the new and current Generation Championship Wrestling World Champion August Artois, when he's not playing with his cats, he's beating people up. He's going to be taking on Daniel Starling, right?
Yeah, so before we start talking about that, I got to correct you a little bit here. He is real. He is raw. Your FIP World Heavyweight Champion, your Generation Championship World Champion, just like you said. He's the whole damn draw, August Artois. But he's going against Daniel Starling because Daniel Starling has a hatred against him. Because as the fans saw at the last GCW show, Mr. Gomez pulled the curtain, came out, and attacked him with that medallion. And then dropped the medallion to August Artois to cash in to be the new GCW World Champion. Daniel Starling wants that title back. Ever since he held that title in his hands, ever since he got a little bit of taste of that gold, he's been wanting that gold back. With him being the king of Florida, it's a strap match. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. Last time they went into the male bathroom, our referee, our official, Miss Juliet, she couldn't even get into the bathroom. Who knows what's going to happen at Gulfview Mall with that match? But it is going to be definitely a banger match. I know that for sure.
Definitely going to be a banger match. I mean, anytime August Artois is out there, you can expect there's going to be controversy. So I'm looking forward to that match, of course. We have the Hollywood Horror, Lexi Gomez. She's been around on the indie scene for a while, especially down there in Florida. We've seen her in AEW as well. She's going to be taking on the Ultimate Athlete, J-Rod. And I got to tell you, although Lexi has the advantage with her experience, I'm pretty high on this J-Rod. I think she's a pretty serious deal.
See, J-Rod made her Generation Championship Wrestling debut at our last show for the love of wrestling, and she opened it up with a banger. I mean, a hard-hitting match with LaBrava. I mean, one of the hardest hitters out there. I don't know, man. Lexi may just be in trouble for this match coming up. But Lexi, like you said, has a lot of experience in this wrestling business, and it's going to be a match. She's going to have to stay on her toes for sure.
Shout out to Lexi Gomez and J-Rod. Looking forward to that match there. What's up with these Metro brothers, man? I mean, I know they're doing this open challenge. These guys are very cocky. They think that they're the best tag team in the world. Do you expect that they're actually going to win at Live Forever?
Listen, man, this is a new Metro Brothers that none of the GCW fans have ever seen. I haven't seen. Nobody in the locker room's ever seen. You heard him say it when I interview him. All the fans who can go back on Generation Championship Wrestling's YouTube page and all of our social medias can see. I asked them, what's next for them without Mr. Gomez, and their exact words were, Mr. Gomez can kiss our ass. I think the Metro Brothers are ready to do something for themselves now without Gomez and show that they're why an unstoppable force. And I can't tell you if they are going to win, if they're not going to, or if they're going to lose, because we don't know who they're going to face. So, I mean, I have to be pretty in the middle here, Duke.
Okay, you heard that, Metro Brothers. You take it up with Macho Boy if you got a problem with it. He's in the middle. He doesn't know what's going to happen.
Whoa. Don't put me – I'm not in the middle. Do not put me in that situation, Duke. I don't want anything to do with the Metro boys. The Metro Brothers, JC and Chris, they can handle their own. I know it. I don't got any problems.
Okay, all right. So we're going to see what's going to happen with this open challenge. Hopefully a tag team that is worthy to be in the ring with them steps up to the plate for sure. Now, we also have the Hitmaker, Brian Hitt, taking on the Trailer Park Patriot, Jules Bradley. I mean, with the mullet on Jules, I know this is going to be a crazy fight too, huh?
Hey, listen, man, some got it, some don't, some can't, some won't, man. Jules Bradley's definitely got it. He will do it. And this is a return match. We saw this match at the Love of Wrestling. Jules Bradley came up short in that match, and immediately after went right to the former Generation Championship Wrestling Board of Directors and told them, I want a rematch with Brian Hitt. Brian Hitt accepted his rematch here, so we're going to see this match. And I think this match is going to be even bigger and badder than ever. I think Jules Bradley is bringing I don't want to give it away. You got to come out to Live Forever to come see what Jules Bradley's bringing, who he's bringing, what's he bringing. We don't know. Come check it out at Live Forever. But Brian Hitt, man, the Hitmaker, made his Generation Championship Wrestling debut. And he definitely put some hits on Jules Bradley. I think this is going to be a phenomenal match, man. Any guy that comes out on top, it'll be great either way.
I love it. Aries Perez going up against Jerry Swirls, going up against Jason Duggan. I mean, this is a triple threat match, right? What's the story with this?
So listen, Jason Duggan, we had to give him something because of the disqualification of Stephen Frick. So we had to think, since he wants to play not by the rules, let's give him something different. You know, maybe we can cage him in a little bit. So we put him in this triple threat. Jerry Swirls by himself, not in the tag team, not with that mask guy. We don't care what his name is, but not with that mask guy anymore. So he's here to show who Jerry Swirls is and what Jerry Swirls can do. And Aries Perez showed us last time, man. Aries Perez is a dominant competitor across not just the Florida scene, all around the world. This match is going to be crazy. This just might take match of the night.
Wow. Okay, you heard it from the Macho Boy. Match of the night there. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. Certainly, you know, the semi-main event, the other big match on the card here, the Rex Bacchus Defender of Humanity champion himself, the guy with the beautiful hair, Mr. Jake Painter, going up against that lunatic Izzy James. Talk to me about this matchup here.
Izzy James and Jake Painter have known each other for a very, very long time. And Jake Painter's been looking to face Izzy again. and Izzy's been looking to face Jake again. It's just one of them things that every single time one of them comes out on top, and it's just a back and forth game, you know. Now, this match is for the Rex Bacchus Defender of Humanity Championship. I said that triple threat's going to be match of the night. This is going to be the most important match because the show is for Rex, and that title, man, it's the most, in my mind, it's the most prestigious title in that company. Jake Painter, the back-breaking artist, man, he's got some moves last month or 2 months ago. For the love of wrestling, I doubted him. But I told him, and I'm going to tell him again, Jake, I know you're listening. I want you to retain that title. Hold it safe. Keep it tight. Keep it warm. That's all I got to say about that match, Duke.
Wow, Macho Boy coming in hot here. Folks, once again, this is Generation Championship Wrestling Live Forever. That is Saturday, April 13th, 4:20 start time. I'm going to say that again, 4:20 start time, Gulf View Square Mall in Port Richey, Florida. Definitely you want to check that out there. In fact, Macho Boy, how can folks grab tickets so they can see this event live?
The show is completely free. All you got to do is show up to Gulf View Mall, show up to the Grilled Cheese Festival, come see me, come see August Artois, Daniel Starling, all your favorite Generation Championship Wrestling stars, come buy my merchandise, but check out Generation Championship Wrestling's Facebook page and all their socials, and see all the details for that.
Great conversation there with the Macho Boy, a.k.a. Ashton. And in fact, you know, he's a podcaster in his own right. He has a show called Cutting the Kayfabe. That's Kutting, Cutting the Kayfabe. I encourage everybody to check that out. You can also follow them on Facebook. You got that right. I'm going to take a quick break, but when we come back, oh boy, literally a individual that is an institution in the world of professional wrestling. Just a great dude that goes all the way back to the Mushnicks. Okay, we're talking the original NWA. When we return, you are going to hear from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Herb Simmons. That's right. Let's talk hydration. See, I carry something to drink with me every single place that I go because I am concerned about being dehydrated. It runs in the family. Everything from dry mouth, dizzy spells, fainting. It's pretty serious. And I've tried all the different types of waters and sports drinks. Let me tell you something right now. Liquid IV. That has been the most efficient at keeping me hydrated and doing so pretty quickly. Okay, Liquid IV has 5 essential vitamins and is 2 times faster at keeping you hydrated than water alone. And I'm serious, man. Everything from vitamin C to vitamins B3, B5, B6, B12. Liquid IV also is non-GMO, so it's free from gluten, dairy, soy. So for all you folks out there with food allergies, this may be right up your alley. And I know what you're thinking, but how does it taste, Duke? Well, it tastes pretty good. Okay, we're talking my favorite in pina colada. They also have tropical punch, strawberry, new flavors like sea berry and strawberry lemonade. You can enjoy this stuff, man. But don't take my word for it. I want you to stop what you're doing right now and head over to liquidiv.com. Use the promo code Duke Loves Rasslin so you get 20% off your entire order. I mean, anything that you order on liquidiv.com. So what are you waiting for? It's time for you to shop better hydration today. Use the promo code Duke Loves Rasslin over at liquidiv.com. Save yourself 20%. Stay hydrated. Most importantly, enjoy life. That's right. Now let's get on with the show.
This is Herb Simmons, a promoter of Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling, better known as SICW, and you're listening to the great Duke Loves Wrestling.
Brothers and sisters, you know that when it comes to sharing information about pro wrestling, it's something I'm very passionate about, which is why we have all the great legends on the show and even kids breaking into the business in wrestling school. We have fans come on the show, promoters, the whole 9 yards. And something that I'm very passionate about is these conventions, because they're an opportunity for you to meet some of your heroes from yesterday and today. You know, I'm really, really high on conventions, especially when they're run properly and when you have reputable people behind them. And certainly our guest this episode, this guy, when we talk about reputable, he absolutely is a wealth of history and knowledge. On top of that, solid person. So without further ado, welcome to the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast, Mr. Herb Simmons. How you doing there, Brother Simmons?
Well, I appreciate the invite, and I'm doing well. Anytime I can sit and talk to people like you that love and know the business, it makes my day, I'll tell you. But things are great, and just after the big WrestleMania weekend that everybody had a buzz about, we're getting geared up for our big event, and I think hopefully we'll talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. And in fact, let's just jump right into it. FanFest 2. What is it, and why do our listeners need to make some time to get out there and check it out?
Well, I did one, the very first one ever in the state of Missouri last May, and I guess it went over so well that everybody said I had to do another one. And last year we had about, I think it was 53 of the all-time greats, legends show up, and some special guests. And so amongst our busy wrestling schedule, they said, why don't you do another one? And so last year it was a one-day event. It was during the Mother Day weekend in May. We always do a Bruiser Brody memorial in May, along with celebrating the anniversary of a program called Wrestling at the Chase that started in St. Louis in 1959 on television. And so we always incorporate that because we're old school. We live and breathe what old school wrestling that built the foundation to what people are building on still to this day. And so a quick story, I tried to book a gentleman by the name of Bill Apter. I'm sure you're familiar with that name. Bill was the photographer that followed the wrestlers all over the country and all over the world years ago, before internet and before cell phones. And he was taking the photos and writing the vignettes. And so he made a lot of the wrestlers' careers for them by the way of looking through that lens and snapping that photo. So we were going to book him. And of course, he called me back and said, I can't make it. It's two things. One, it's Mother's Day weekend, and two, it's my anniversary. And of course, I said, well, happy wife, happy life. So I'll catch you down the road. Him and I have been friends a long, long time. And so this year when I booked the date, he was the first one to call me and said, hey, I'm in. So instead of a 1 day, we're doing a 2 day, actually a 1.5, that Friday evening on May 17th. He'll be doing the Bill Apter's one-man show, which is more of a variety show, some trivia questions, some karaoke, talking about the old days. He does a lot of impersonations of Dusty Rhodes, and you name it. He can just about imitate anybody. So, and then on Saturday, May 18th, the big fan fest. We're over 60 legends right now that have signed up to be there. It's in St. Louis, Missouri. And so if the fans, we have fans coming from Canada, from Texas, from Louisiana, from Tennessee. The hotel is actually booked up. People are finding a hotel across the street and down the road from it. But it looks like it's could be another good one.
I'll tell you something there, Herb. Bill Apter, I credit him, both Bill Apter and the Boston Globe. Those are the Apter magazines and the Boston Globe. Those are two things that I used to read as a child. That's actually how I learned how to read. So you talk about, yeah, man. So I owe a lot to Bill Apter because my father, who was a big wrestling fan, he'd get the magazines and he would read it himself, whether it be, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, The Wrestler, all that good stuff there. And then he'd give it to me. And at first it was just looking at the pictures, and then it evolved into learning how to interpret the words, read it, think about it. And then he would do this interesting thing and say, hey, tell me what you read. What happened? So it caused me to actually create critical thinking skills. No. You know what I mean? So it's not even just reading words, but understand what is happening here.
Right. comprehending what was written, and the way Bill wrote was just fabulous,
Exactly. So,
it made it feel like you were right there,
And with the pictures, it's just top notch. So certainly, I always give special thanks and appreciation to Bill Apter. Certainly, great guy, and we to this day, I always have the guys at Pro Wrestling Illustrated on the show, and very serious about promoting them to keep that alive because it's important. So that's awesome. That story that you told about Bill, and listen, FanFest 2, folks, some great friends of the show are going to be there. Folks like Dan the Beast Severin. He's a great friend of the show. Tim Storm, one of the early guests on the show. Our great friend James Beard, the legendary referee and former executive in the NWA, he's going to be there. So there's no reason why you can't be there, folks. Once again, May 18th at the Aviator Hotel and Ballroom. Get your tickets at SICW.org. Really just a great fan fest. You get to meet a bunch of the great legends out there. It should be a good time. Herb, you're an interesting guy because you go all the way back in terms of folks who you've done business with and you've built relationships with. Do I have it right that Sam Mushnick is one of your mentors?
Yeah, I got to sit underneath his learning tree at an early age. My good friend Larry Matasek, who was the protege of Sam Mushnick, Larry started working for Sam at the age of 16 years old. He actually started off by sending in some of his sample writing. Larry had a degree in journalism and was an avid wrestling fan. In fact, wrestling was probably the only job Larry had. And he sent a few sample of his writing in to Sam, and he got his first paycheck from Sam, which was $25 back in the day. But, he was in high cotton at that time. And Sam was, was gracious enough to basically open up the files to him in the business because, Sam ran the National Wrestling Alliance out of the office in St. Louis at that time. And so I would tag along with Larry, and Sam would be in the office, and he always told us whatever we went through the files, nothing left the office, and what we heard stayed in the office. And I've told the stories over the years to sit there and listen to him and somebody like Big Thunder Gene Kaniski talk, or Fritz von Erich, or Johnny Valentine. I was a kid at a candy shop at an early age. And, those are great memories that I hope I never lose. And, but Larry was another, fantastic, he went on to be a ring announcer, and then went on to be the play-by-play announcer for the great program Wrestling at the Chase that actually went on television in 1959 and stayed on until 83, until the WWF came in and bought the rights up for the TV and everything.
It's kind of ironic you mentioned those years. My mother was born in 59, and I was born in 82. So it's interesting to hear those years, the way that you said that there. And you personally, the fact that you, with your SICW, you've been promoting since 1975, right?
73 was when I first started getting involved with a gentleman in Malden, Missouri. Had a couple of matches. I was still learning at that time. It was, I never wanted to be a worker. I never wanted to be the guy to get in there and take those bumps because, to this day, I take my hat off to all of them. What they put their bodies through to go out there and to do their job is just unbelievable. To think that, these guys were on the road for 30 days at a time, maybe go home for a week and then hit the road again, and living out of their cars, or, multiple people living or staying in the same hotel room, and then getting a couple hours sleep and driving 300 miles to the next show. I never wanted to be that guy. And I remember my first meeting with Sam Mushnick when Larry took me to it. We're sitting at a race track, horse races, and they had a nice steakhouse there. And I mean, I was nervous, like I said, young man, and we're sitting there. We ordered, and Sam's cutting up his steak, and and I'd always heard the horror stories of the business. How it was territorial. You didn't go into other people's territory, or you had a price to pay, and it wasn't somebody paying you money. I mean, it could be a nasty business, and but Sam was cutting the steak up, and he said, Larry tells me you want to learn the business. And I said, well, yeah. And I told him the same thing. I don't want to be a worker. I want to know the behind the curtain, the behind the scenes stuff. And he took the steak knife and pointed to his ear and earlobe. And he says, if you keep these open, and he pointed it to his lips and said, if you keep this shut, you'll go a long way in this business. And so I've tried to do that for 51 years. And I've met a lot of people in this business, a lot of people I call friends, and it's just not business where, I'm paying them to come in. It's people that I can call. And, I always use Terry Funk as God rest his soul as an example. I spent many hours on a telephone with him, having just great conversation, but always talking about the business. Bob Orton, runs my training academy. And so I've built those relationships, and I've done that by trying to remember what Sam always told me. You treat the boys right, and they'll treat you right. And they have.
Well, certainly the fact that you've been around since 73, that says a lot. That says a lot, because so many have come and gone through the years, and yet you and what you promote is still going strong. Kudos to you for that, man. And you brought him up. Cowboy Bob Orton, Hall of Famer, innovator, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. He's somebody that you've done business with for many, many years. And you have a special connection with his son, the future Hall of Famer, Randy Orton. Tell me about this special connection here, because I'm blown away to hear this.
Yeah, of course, when Randy first was getting in the business, of course, his father, and of course, let me back up a minute. Bob's father was on the first wrestling show at 1959 at Wrestling at the Chase. And so, the Orton family consists of 4 generations there. His brother Barry, his dad, and Randy, and then himself. But when Randy was getting into the business, Bob did all he could, basically. And I remember the call I got from him and said, hey, you got anybody that can work out with my boy? He thinks the old man don't know anything else. And at that time, I was working with my friend Tony Costa down at the place called the South Broadway Athletic Club in St. Louis. And we had some guys down there, individuals, Ron Powers, the Night Train, Gary Jackson, who got the name Night Train from our good friend, the late Bruiser, Brody. People like that was working there and were good at the business. And so I told Bob, I said, sure, we'll get him down to the South Broadway Club and get him going. And that's where he did. He ended up coming down there, doing a little work with them guys for a while. And in fact, if you go on his page, I think it's still on there. He talks about his first match being there at South Broadway Athletic Club. And so I always razz Bob. I said, look, you tell that little shit when he, excuse my language, but I said when he gets on the independent side after he retires, he owes me a first booking where I can have him at a fan fest, And so Bob, as speaking of Bob, he's being inducted into the St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame that we started. He'll get inducted on May 18th also. So I'm hoping the entire Orton family will be there for that presentation.
Well, congratulations to Bob Orton Jr. there. That is a high honor, being inducted into the St. Louis Hall of Fame for sure. And imagine anyone calling Randy Orton at least, what is he, 6'5", 6'6", 250 pounds. Imagine calling him little.
Yeah, little.
Only you could get away with that, Herb.
Yeah. Well, I got a picture of him and my wife sitting on a that I mentioned, Ron Powers, and people like Danny Boy, another guy, and they're still associated with SICW all these years. And Gary Jackson, still with us. In fact, he's being awarded the Sam Mushnick annual award we do every year. Gary Jackson is getting that because this gentleman's a retired military individual, had a great career, and he was one that always carried his gear with him, and that's how he got the door open up a lot of these places. And these guys went on and worked for the WWF, they worked for WCW, but they've always had their home base as SICW, and they're, to this day, they're still helping do things for me.
Herb, it's so interesting, man. Because you are still going strong with SICW, like you said, you have Bob Orton. He's down there training the kids and the next generation of future superstars and what have you here. I got to ask you this question because, like I said, I was born in '82. Fortunate enough to have cable. We had cable vision in my house, so because of that, this is the early years of cable. Pro wrestling was on TV on multiple channels, man. Every single day I could watch wrestling, which was great. So characters like Baron von Raschke with his Iron Claw and the Von Erichs, of course, and Iceman King Parsons, Brickhouse Brown, and my heroes, Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan, guys later on like Ron Simmons. I grew up at a time where pro wrestling was real. That's just the way it was. It simulated a fight, and it was something that you really could, if you were a fan of it, because there was always the naysayers, oh, why do you watch that stuff? But if you were a fan of it, it's something you really could get wrapped up in and what have you, because these guys were trying to beat each other up. That's the point. Easy to comprehend. You know what I mean? There's no learning curve there. It simulates a fight. Over the years, and really the past 20 years in particular, we've seen this shift in which there's a lot of what I call flippy dippy peanut butter skippy. Everybody's got to do these fancy moves and do these amazing feats of gymnastics and what have you. It's like, wow, that's cool to see. It's a video game, but I've never seen a fight, and I've never been in a fight where a guy is jumping up and doing 3 somersaults and some nonsense like that. And the other guy's just standing there waiting to catch him. That just doesn't comprehend for a guy like me. And maybe I'm getting to the point where I'm the old fogey with his fist in the air yelling at the cloud, I guess. But as a promoter, as somebody who continues to develop the next generation, and you got guys like Bob Orton developing the next generation out there, how do you allow yourself to stay modern, given the fact that you broke into the business at a time where, again, wrestling was a fight? It wasn't this nonsense. And I guess I'm being a little derogatory saying it that way, but it wasn't this nonsense with the flips and the dips and all this nonsense. How do you allow yourself to stay current and stay modern so that you're addressing the kids today and preparing them for today as opposed to keeping them stuck in the past?
Well, that's a good question, and I when you talk about the naysayers out there, believe me, after all these years, I've been interviewed by multiple media outlets when you do shows and you go into different towns, because about 95% of what we do are for nonprofit organizations, helping them raise funds, whether it be the local fire departments, police departments, church organizations. So, you do your best to always promote those shows when you go to those communities, and we have repeat business. I mean, I've got clients that we go back 10, 15, 20 years of repeat business for them. So it's, so you get that question asked to you, but, and I tell people all the time, yeah, wrestling, it's all on how you look at it. You can say it's fake, but if you asked Dr. D. David Schultz, who will be joining us May the 18th, you see what he did to John Strassel. Yeah, I like to say the toothpaste is out of the tube, or the curtain's been pulled back, but those gentlemen and the ladies are still getting in there, doing their best they can. As I told you, I'm strictly old school. I'm kind of like you. I grew up back in the older days of the Johnny Valentines, the Gene Kaniskis, the Whipper Billy Watsons, the John Paul Hennings, the Lou Theszes, Pat O'Connor's, Dick the Bruiser, Bruiser Brody, that they didn't have to go in there and slap their legs because they were laying it in. When they tatered you, they didn't have to do any of that stuff. So, and that's kind of how Bob Orton trains our up and coming students. Now, whether they maintain that, one of the first things we tell them is don't watch things on Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night, because it's on almost like you said, you can turn on any channel and get it. Don't come into the academy thinking you're going to be a fish out of water. The marquee says wrestling, and that's what we give them. As far as me, I tell people I'm a John Wayne fanatic. He was my hero, and I still am. I have an apron when I barbecue or fry fish. It's John Wayne and I doing it. And I tell people if I want to believe John Wayne went out there and shot the bad guys and brought law and order to town, nobody's going to tell me any difference. It's no different than going to the local theater and paying $20 to see a 2.5 hour movie. When you leave there, hopefully you enjoyed it, but it's a theater, and that's kind of what we do in the wrestling business. We're going to give you 2.5 hours of entertainment that at SICW you're going to say, "Whoa, when's the next show? We're coming back." So that's how I try to stay ahead of the game.
Well, I need to continue to study you, brother, because I run into it sometimes. And listen, we definitely promote a lot of wonderful independent wrestlers, kids who are still in wrestling school or are just having their first couple of matches. So, I make sure that I humble myself in that regard by giving back and helping those kids get a leg up and get some promotion in that regard. But when I see some of this flippy stuff, it just drives me nuts because, again, pro wrestling is supposed to simulate a fight. Two opposing forces competing, even if it's just to see who the better man or woman is, right?
Exactly.
So when you see this video game stuff, again, it's cool, but after 3 or 4 matches and you see a dive in every match, it's like, all right, guys, Randy Orton can do more with a Garvin stomp, a Ronnie Garvin stomp, than half the damn roster half the time.
Yeah, well, and I know you'll remember back in the day when a finishing move meant the match was over. Nowadays, you see a guy that put him in a hole that should be a finishing move, and the guy gets out of it, and you're thinking, and I agree with you. You go out there and get beat up for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden they're flipping and flopping, and they get their high spots in, and the crowd gives them that couple of seconds pop. But, to me, that's not it. I want to see them go out there and tell the story. And, that's what we do. The same way we do TV. We just did our TV. Usually it's after our house show. The following Sunday, we hold the guys over, and then we tape 3 to 4 episodes that will air on our YouTube channel and our other platforms that we have, and on a little TV out of St. Louis, Missouri. And it's and I tell you what's really interesting is after our house show or any of the shows that we do, I stand at the door and I thank the fans for coming, and they'll repeatedly say, "Man, Herb, just as we thought we had this figured out, you pull a rabbit out of your hat." So that's when the fans are following you, because we have structure. I have one of the greatest locker rooms ever. I don't do a lot of other shows unless a promoter invites me to come. Like I told you, I took Bob Orton to a show with a couple last Sunday, and the promoter was there. I didn't go in his locker room because I was there with Bob doing business, but I knew almost all the guys who was in there. Because what happens when I show up to them shows right away, the word gets spread, and Herb's here, he's trying to scout talent, Well, I don't have to scout talent. I'm there's not a day, and I'm not exaggerating, there's not a day goes by that I'm not getting messages from workers all over the country wanting to come to SICW. And that's because I think they're following us on social media. They're following our YouTube page. and they see how we do our TV. TV is ringside interviews, ringside beatdowns, just like back in the day. So it's a story. It's people being able to follow it. And I know they're following it because when they're buying those tickets for the house show to see the big payoff, that's what they're talking about. Man, and 3 weeks ago, we saw this on TV and we're going to see the cage match tonight, or we're going to see this, or we're going to see that, I mean, last year I had a cage match with a guy that was trained by Harley Race. He goes by the name of Telekan from Mongolia. He's the international bounty hunter. And we had a young man that was green, probably 3, 4, 5 years into business, went by the name of Sheik Prater, and they were part of Devastation Incorporated. And they went against Haku and Barbarian in a cage match.
Wow.
Now, not too many independent promotions out there can put together. And that was a storyline that was told over 6 months, and then we had the big cage match blow off.
And I bet you sold that out.
It was great. It was a great time, and I mean that's why we, like I said, we do these things, these promotions for high schools, for like I said, organizations that we bring Tito Santana in. We've had Jerry Lawler. There's not too many. When you were naming some names a few minutes ago, Ron Simmons, we've had him in the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. I tell him I'm going to get him an address here so he can vote for me because he's here so much, But the fans out there still love the old school. They love who made. I don't want to say made the business what it is today, because the business has changed, as you just said. But they laid a foundation that I continue to build on, and I give them all the credit in the world. Without those guys that I've been naming, and many more, the Bruiser, Brody's. I mean, he was with us the weekend before he got murdered back in 1988, and it was a great, great friend. Introduced me to guys like Crusher Blackwell and Dirty Dick Murdoch and Greg the Hammer Valentine, who will be joining us May the 18th, and I owe a lot to Bruiser Brody.
I mean, and you're naming the names like Brody, like Valentine. These are the guys that I grew up watching. These are my heroes. So the fact that you've worked and have literally been business partners with guys like Brody and what have you, it blows my mind. You are legitimately a link to a time that, in my opinion, pro wrestling has never been better since. Those are some great years, man. Those are really some great years.
Oh, I agree. And I have the library of St. Louis Wrestling, that Wrestling at the Chase program. I'm not sure if you ever heard of that before.
Absolutely. I've seen Wrestling at the Chase. Beautiful.
So I've got the library from there. And then early last year, I acquired Dick the Bruiser's TV library.
Wow.
And I know some people will say, well, yeah, but I've got some of those tapes too. Well, yeah, you probably got them on DVD, or you probably got them on a VHS that somebody bootlegged off the TV, but I've got them. They're still on the original TV reels, the 1-inch TV reels, and I'm slowly getting them transformed over. And eventually, my goal, if the good Lord's willing and the creek doesn't rise, as my mom used to say, I'd love to have a museum set up sometime, and because I've got a pretty good collection of stuff over 51 years. And I mean, I've got a large marquee that hung in the Kiel Auditorium back in 1968, 69 of Gene Kaniski against Edouard Carpentier when they were having a big feud that took place there. So, I mean, I think it'd be nice. I know there's a couple of museums around, but I think for the showcase what St. Louis used to be, because if you talk to any of even Ric Flair tells you that you didn't make it to the big time until you made it to St. Louis.
Absolutely.
Harley Race, another one of the greatest, if not the greatest in the business. I've got guys that work for me today that were trained by Harley Race. Superstar Steve Fender, who's my current SICW Central States champion. And now just won the AIWF International Championship. a great guy, trained by Harley Race. Attila Khan, trained by Harley Race. And like I said, Night Train Gary Jackson got the nickname Night Train from Bruiser Brody. Ron Powers traveled all over with Bruiser Brody. So I mean, the credibility of the SICW locker room is great, and I'm not talking about taking anything away from any other organization out there. It's just that I've been fortunate, like I said, to be at the right place at the right time. I grew up in the housing projects in East St. Louis, Illinois, and back when we had a little 12-inch black and white television because there was no cable back then, and we'd pull it outside because we didn't have air conditioning in the apartments. And so every Wednesday night we would sit there, and the neighbors in the apartment complex would come outside, and we watched wrestling at the Chase. You know, it was so hot and the mosquitoes were so bad, and my mom would take a little metal mop bucket, and put a few rags in there with some cooking oil and light it up and smoke it to keep the mosquitoes away from eating us up.
Man, that's old school right there, brother.
Yeah, well, my mom, you mentioned people like Von Raschke. Boy, she despised him, and she loved Cowboy Bob Ellis. And so I've had the good fortune of working with the Baron. In fact, I just talked to him last week. He came in for us last May, and I was wanting him back this May, but he wasn't able to get a schedule with me. And but people like J.J. Dillon has been in for me, and great people like that. Jerry Briscoe, like I said, he'll be back in with us in May, and hopefully JBL is going to return. He was with us last May. In fact, Jerry called me while he was up in Philly for WrestleMania and said, "Hey, JBL wants to come back in. Can we add him on the card?" So I said, "What am I going to do? Say no?" But it's relationships like that you build over. I go up to in Waterloo, Iowa, to the Tragus Hall of Fame every year. My good friend Troy Peterson, that runs the Impact Wrestling up there, puts on one heck of a show. This is their 25th year anniversary. I help out with the Cauliflower Alley Club. B. Brian Blair, who was just on our show last Sunday night, we interviewed him, and Brian's been in for me. And the Cauliflower Alley Club is a organization close to my heart because I've seen them help so many of the men and women in the wrestling business that's fallen on hard times. And I tell people it's like a supplemental insurance policy. Because if you fall on hard times, the Cauliflower Alley Club is there to help their brothers and sisters, and I've seen them do it. So I'm getting a little plug in there for them because we do a reunion in Las Vegas is coming up. We do that every year out there, and people like Barbara Goodish, who Bruiser Brody's widow, Darla Staggs, Pam Morrison, we call them the queens of professional wrestling. They're really active in the organization, and they help coordinate the 3-day event out there. And I tell the younger guys, even in the academy, for $35 a year for annual membership, or I think it's $350 for a lifetime membership, it's an insurance policy because, if you don't think you're not going to get hurt in this business, you're wrong. It happens, and you want something to help cover you. So
absolutely. And shout out to B. Brian Blair, a great friend of the show, and certainly the Cauliflower Alley Club. We've spent many a time promoting their big events each year, and I am so happy to hear you mention them as well. There, Herb, you're a great dude, man. Seriously, you're a great dude. In fact, why don't you let everybody listening know the best way that they can keep up with you, the promotion, everything? Just plug away.
Well, they tell me I'm the easiest guy to find on Facebook. I don't do all that other stuff, but Facebook is you can get me as Herb Simmons or SICW.org. My email is SICW promoter.org. promoter at SICW.org. I have to remember that sometimes. Or somebody wants to call me. My number is 618-719-1034. Everybody says, "Oh, you're giving out your number." Well, that's what phone numbers are for. If people want to talk to me about the business, and I do, I have people from all over the country calling. We just talk about wrestling, kind of like what you and I are doing. They want to know about St. Louis. They've heard so many great stories about it. And I'm probably, I know you got people like Bill Apter that's got a library of knowledge of St. Louis and every place else, or George Shire, Sheldon Goldberg, people like that are historians in my book. I mean, everybody says I'm a historian. No, I'm just, like I said, I was a young man at the right place at the right time that got to meet so many of the people that I grew up watching. And then I always wanted to, as I said, be more involved. And by gosh, 51 years I have been. And people say, "Well, how long are you going to keep going?" And I say, "Well, I can tell you that the gas in the tank is getting a little low, but I got to get through. I got May 4th. I got a big show in Belleville, Illinois, at the Belle Claire Fairgrounds. We still run there. That was one of the first places I brought Bruiser Brody to back in the late 70s. People like Dick Murdoch came there, Jerry Blackwell, and here we are still operating there. So I got a big show there. And then, of course, May 17th and 18th and the rest of the year. We're booked up solid with not only shows for organizations. We're going to communities for the high school in Breeze, Illinois. Got a couple of police departments and one in Fairmont City, Illinois, we're doing for. Monroe County Fairgrounds, we're doing a show for. And these are for organizations. And then TV we do. So we're booked up pretty solid, but we've got a few dates open. I'm working on, we do a private show at the Missouri Athletic Club in St. Louis, and they have like 800 members. Every year we go there. Last year we had Jake the Snake Roberts Farm and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and Jimmy Hart's there every year with us. And so we're working on that this year. They want a bigger one, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but I'm working on it. So, but we're busy. We're not letting the grass grow, as they say.
Well, listen, Herb, I got to tell you, man, on behalf of all the fans out there, thank you very much for all that you've contributed to the wrestling industry and really for helping foster a healthy wrestling industry for so many years. Just, Herb, thank you.
Well, and I appreciate everything. And again, it's for the fans. I mean, Sam always said, without the fans and without the great talent, there is no business. And we've got some of the greatest fans here in our area in Illinois and Missouri. And I know all promoters across the world say that, but I mean it. And of course, without fans and the great locker room, I wouldn't. There would be no SICW. So, and again, the shows that you're doing, helping keep those promotions and the shows alive. It's a way to get because we can't compete with the big guys, and I never try. I mean, I tell everybody, don't have the deep pockets, but what I don't have in my pocket, I got in my brain for the time being.
So next time, folks, be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. Take it away, Tony Schiavone.
This is Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.